Netflix can't rest easy from the excitement generated by Amazon Games Workshop's grandiose venture and personally Henry Cavill's adaptation of the Warhammer 40 Zero universe. And apparently, there are some personal moments here. After all, Henry left The Witcher from Netflix, loudly slamming the door without scandal, at least publicly, but with gigantic resonance throughout the world, which clearly didn't represent the streamer in the best light. So now, Netflix announces the creation of its new flagship, based on the grandiose universe known probably to all gamers in the world, Assassin's Creed from Ubisoft. Meanwhile, insiders report that the green light for the future project, which had been discussed since 2020, was now given very hastily. And all this happened against the backdrop of two events at once. First is the sad situation of Ubisoft Company, which desperately needs this partnership with Netflix. Second, and probably main, is the incredible excitement caused by Warhammer from Amazon and the desire to prove to everyone and personally Henry Cavill that Netflix is supposedly no worse and even better than any competitors, and to wipe Henry's nose personally. Well, on one hand, the news is impressive. On the other hand, many game fans are tense again, expecting new wildness. And further, you'll understand why. Now we'll discuss all details, team, plot, possible release date, and other things. And most importantly, will Netflix be able to, let's say, punish Amazon and Henry Cavill as they dream or not? This will be interesting. Music. Well, first let's go through dry facts. As became known at the end of last week, Netflix officially gave green light to a series based on the Assassin's Creed franchise from Ubisoft, which could become temporary support for the struggling game producer. And at the same time, according to Netflix's plan, it should turn into a new grandiose pseudo-historical saga, possibly even with fantasy elements. For the streamer, this is especially relevant considering that their Witcher not only didn't take off, but is now living its last months and days. Valhalla, based on Vikings, also didn't become a hit. Shadow and Bone was canceled, as were many other similar projects, and on this field, Netflix is now far behind outsiders, while the streamer's ambitions still apparently hover somewhere around their answer to Game of Thrones, however banal this may sound. Therefore, the company had long been eyeing the Assassin's Creed universe from Ubisoft. But there was still no final announcement until recent days when July 17th brought an announcement, which, as reported by Netflix, became the result of almost 5 years of development since the announcement of the initial partnership between the streamer and Ubisoft in 2020. And now it turned out that Emmy nominees Robert Patino, who worked on the demilitarized zone Wild West World and Sons of Anarchy, as well as David Weiner, who developed Halo series Homecoming, Murders, and Other Things, will act as creators, showrunners, and executive producers of the future project, as stated in the release, relying on their experience in dramatic and pseudo-historical storytelling. Netflix describes the future series as a tense thriller and grandiose spectacle that should focus on the secret conflict between two ancient factions, Templars seeking to determine humanity's fate through dominance and deception, and assassins who supposedly protect free will. Covering key historical moments, the statement says, the narrative touches themes of destiny, identity, fate, faith, power, violence, greed, and revenge. However, Patino and Weiner emphasize that at the series' core lies the value of human connections, regardless of culture and time, as well as existential threats arising when these connections are violated. Also, the creators of the future series, as usual, confessed their devotion to the game series, starting from its 2007 debut. We have been fans of Assassin's Creed since its release in 2007. Every day working on this show, we leave inspired and amazed by the opening possibilities. The showrunners responded, emphasizing the combination of action elements like parkour with deep human dilemmas, promising to create impressive spectacle for both fans and newcomers. Peter Friedlander, Netflix vice president, also commented on this momentous event. When we first announced our partnership with Ubisoft in 2020, we set an ambitious goal: to bring to life the rich and vast world of Assassin's Creed using bold new solutions, the executive stated. Now, after many years of fruitful collaboration, it's inspiring to see how far this idea has advanced. Well, there are certainly many words, Beautiful words as usual, but it's still not quite clear what the upcoming series will actually be. Will it become some pseudo-historical saga, or as some insiders report, will it include even fantasy elements? We don't have answers to these questions yet, just as we don't have an answer about how many seasons are planned for the future show or when it will come out. The preliminary date is called 2027, but as they say, this is imprecise. But what information has already appeared online, and it's not uninteresting, is information about Netflix and Ubisoft's motives for rolling out the release of their future brainchild and announcing production start right now. Regarding Ubisoft company, everything is more or less clear there. This French giant currently has enormous problems. Their stocks this year simply broke through the bottom. For 2025-26, the company is projected to have a net loss of 160 million euros, and their fresh Assassin's Creed became a huge failure, not meeting expectations. Therefore, joint adaptation with Netflix could become a lifeline for the company. Not just bringing impressive financial injections for copyright, but also leading to a surge in popularity of Ubisoft's main game. True. If you look at what the company has been doing in recent years and analyze their failure of Assassin's Creed Shadows, then of course, the fate of the upcoming series, and especially its ability to compete with the same Warhammer from Amazon, looks quite hazy. I remind you that this year's released freshest version of Assassin's Creed from Ubisoft caused enormous storm of indignation due to, primarily, the Black Samurai Yasuke, who became one of the game's main characters. And here, the story is quite ambiguous, because on one hand, Yasuke is a real historical figure who was a samurai and lived in the 15th century, while probably being African. And he's considered the first foreigner to receive warrior status in Japan. Therefore, the game's authors consider themselves 100% right, since they didn't mess with appearance, as often happens now. True. On the other hand, many Japanese and others were dissatisfied with such situation, being outraged that Assassin's Creed transferred the game's events to Japan and didn't bother making Japanese people the main characters. Ubisoft also got it for what many considered glaring historical distortions, cultural appropriation, and imposing alien awakening ideology. Wide indignation was caused by such elements as, I quote, desecration of shrines, plots based on ideas of expanded representation, which alienated the target audience. The negative reaction grew into official petitions from Japanese authorities and viral campaigns condemning the new game. And of course, now many, looking at all this and remembering what Netflix company represents, which already loves stamping series about dark-skinned heroes of ancient Greek myths and Black King Arthur, so many are now sure in advance that such tandem will guaranteed bring us in the future series whole clans of Black Samurai, non-binary assassins, and other delights. Maybe so, maybe not. We won't predict ahead here. After all, sometimes even a stick shoots, and Netflix manages to release really cool historical series like Pristine America. By the way, I recommend to everyone a really very worthy project. More interesting now is something else. The streamer's own motivation to hastily increase efforts in creating the future Assassin's Creed series. And here, on one hand, we already talked about Netflix simply having nothing worthy in this genre lately, and they need to create their own competitively attractive projects. But on the other hand, if we believe some publications that appeared in English language press, there's also something personal here, namely an attempt to compete with Amazon and directly Henry Cavill, who, as we all know perfectly well, couldn't get along and work with Netflix company. And though he didn't criticize it publicly, by his very departure, he made words even unnecessary. Now, Henry, as known, works closely with Amazon and takes active part in creating two legendary projects at once. This is the adaptation of Warhammer 40, Zero, based on books and games, as well as the adaptation of Highlander. Both these projects, and especially the first one, of course, causes gigantic excitement now. And we can say without exaggeration that the Warhammer series is perhaps the most anticipated series in the world. And if we believe insiders, such situation for some Netflix tops who are still offended by Henry Cavill's behavior like a sickle in one place. And they want to urgently prove to the whole world that they're no worse and even better than Amazon, and rightfully are the largest streamer on the planet, as well as wipe Henry's nose personally, who, you could say, disgraced Netflix to the whole world, demonstratively abandoning their series on which the streamer recently placed such huge bets, and whose song with Cavill's departure is finally sung. That's precisely why now appeared the message about future Assassin's Creed adaptation. And probably that's why now Netflix talks about its future project with such delight. So we'll continue following news and introducing you to all updates. And to not miss anything, subscribe to our channel right now and click the bell. And also, don't forget to write your comments and put thumbs up. Thanks everyone for watching, and goodbye to all.